Today we're taking a look at a 2021 Chevrolet Camaro LT1. What does this mean, LT1? Well, it's essentially the base Camaro, 6-speed manual, and the 6.2 liter V8. So I've had this car for a couple days. Of course, it's raining. Thank you, Pennsylvania. We're gonna do a walk around, talk about the car, take it for a drive. Got a bunch of videos on this car, and I'll give you my overall impressions of the Camaro. It's the first muscle car I've ever driven, so it's quite an experience for me. Really want to give you my honest thoughts and sort of like where this car stands in my next car buying process. I mentioned that I'm interested in manuals because it just adds that extra level of connection to the driver. Let's look at this cockpit, so cool. And that 6-speed manual looking beautiful. Starting price on Camaros is like low $25,000 for their perky 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. This is the 6.2 liter V8 on the LT1. Makes 455 horsepower, 455 pound-feet of torque, made to that 6-speed transmission. Manual transmission, driving the rear wheels only. DLT1 at $34,000 for this coupe. Adds Brembo brakes and a performance suspension as well. So yeah, I like this blue. It's super striking. I think it's a good balance of looking sharp, but not being over shouty that you're driving a muscle car. Here's the key. Pop the trunk. First you gotta unlock it. Pop the trunk. Good amount of usable space. Competitors being the Ford Mustang and the Dodge Challenger have a little bit more space and practicality in the rear. No room for a spare tire. Got that black spoiler, 2 large exhausts to make that 6.2 liter sing. The back end of the Camaro doesn't really do it for me, but from the side, I do think these hips really are accentuated. I like these 5-spoke black wheels on the all-season tires, 245 40 R20s in the rear, 245 40 R20s, so it's a square setup in the front as well. Functional hood vent, extra cooling for that 6.2 liter V8. This is the generation where I think Chevy kind of dropped the ball on the front end. It is an aggressive front. I like the bulge from the 6.2 liter V8, but it really doesn't do much else for me. I like this LT1 badging on the side, but overall very muscle car look, very proper, very aggressive looking. Let's get inside. So I'm getting soaked. Even the normal 6.2 liter V8 makes enough noise to wake up the neighbors. So quick walk around this interior. We'll talk about visibility and all that stuff later on. But in terms of features we do get a small digital gauge cluster, 8-inch wireless Apple CarPlay, a very responsive screen, not the best resolution and position, and it kind of like is facing down away from the driver. Do get a hard button for the home and all that. Physical climate controls, these interesting vents that you adjust the fan and cooling speed. Drive mode selector, we get Tour, Sport, and Snow and Ice. We'll start out on Tour. Doesn't really affect much, maybe just the steering weight and the throttle response. No adaptive dampers on here. Limited amount of storage there. 2 cup holders though. Electronic parking brake. A very cockpit-like interior. I like these signature vents and stuff. We do get power adjustment on both sides. Cotton or cloth seats that are decently comfortable. Not my favorite, but they're okay. Material choice is, the quality is good. The material choice isn't too impressive. You do get a nice leather steering wheel with a bunch of physical controls. I like that Chevy gives you rev match pedals. Really just taking advantage of the real estate of the steering wheel. Man, that is really coming down. And back seats that are pretty much useless except for maybe a dog or a very small child that you don't like. I like that you have a little bit more storage right there. And we do get a sunroof. Alright, but really, we're here to talk about the Chevy and how it drives, so let's get on it. So let's talk this 6-speed manual. The manual itself is a very nice feeling. It's strong. It's got good weight to it. The gearbox itself is a little tough to kind of figure out the gates compared to some other manuals I've driven, but I like that there's some kind of like weight behind it. Still getting everything warmed up, but it really just feels like you are connecting with the car and you are one with the engine and the powertrain. It's got a nice feel and stuff. The clutch engagement is a little bit not finicky, but it's not as forgiving as some other cars I've driven. But like any other car, it takes some time getting used to. But it really is a nice transmission for driving. So on the road, driving dynamics, rear wheel drive, muscle car, big presence on the road, big weight. You really feel like you are owning the road, and with that, there are some cons. Visibility is not great. These pillars on the A side are pretty thick, but you do get a nice amount of glass in your blind spots, in my opinion. I would like blind spot monitoring and a little bit more safety systems. We only get a rear view camera, which I'll show later. Just that kind of help mitigate the sizes. Parking sensors would be nice, but I think those are in the 3SS or maybe the 2SS. Chevy kind of does a 1, 2, 3 with their trims, LT, SS. But you know, the visibility, you get used to it, as everyone with a Camaro will say. You definitely get used to it. Really, it's just kind of the size that throws me off more so than the ability to see over, like, around the car. I like being sat inside. It feels like a cockpit. Performance of this 6.2 liter, very nice. Pulls linearly, strong. Really builds power and torque as you get up in the rev range. Active rev matching, blips the throttle perfectly. Anyone who doesn't know how to do their rev matches will be perfectly taken care of with GM's system. They really do a nice job there. traction control helping us out, put the power down of the rear wheels even in these rainy conditions. I do like the steering as we get into this corner of the Chevy. It's pretty direct, a little bit of feedback from the front wheels, but it has a nice weight to it, really fits the muscle car characteristic, but it's not too heavy for daily driving. Suspension feel is biggest surprise of this car for sure. I don't feel like I'm getting beaten up on the bumps, and the minor imperfections are soaked up by the car, even with these larger 20-inch wheels and the all-season tires. Over larger imperfections, any small sports car is going to get beaten up. And yeah, it's just definitely, I can see why people daily drive these. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I can see the appeal for sure. Fuel economy, 16 mpg in the city, 24 on the highway, I believe. We've had this car for almost 500 miles and we've averaged 24, which is a lot of highway driving, not a lot of city driving. It'll definitely drop down if you're idling and shifting 1 to 2 and stuff, stop and go traffic. But that's kind of the case in any muscle car with a V8. As you just noticed there, sometimes I miss my second. My second gear and it gets a little stuck. I'm just not used to these more sporty manual transmissions. So before we get on the highway, let's talk competitors quickly. Obviously the big three, the Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge are competing in the muscle car space, but not anymore in 2024, because the Dodge Challenger is like kind of becoming the Charger, and not really gonna have V8s anymore, twin turbo V6s, and the Chevy Camaro is no more. It might become a electric car, but that Ford Mustang is still kicking with the 5.0, and while they have a ton of screens integrated, they are still giving us 6-speed manual and a V8. But yeah, the Ford, I haven't driven a Ford or a Dodge, but the Ford is definitely the better daily driver. Interior is nicer, a little bit more roomy overall, better trunk, better use of tech and material choices. Pretty neck and neck in terms of their V8s. And then the Dodge is just kind of the muscle car for practical use. It's much bigger than both of them, the Camaro or the Ford Mustang. And it's got a bigger trunk, bigger back seat. Whoop. So definitely as a daily driver, it works. The driving dynamics may not be the best compared to the Camaro or the Ford Mustang, but it kind of makes up for it in the practicality. It definitely loses on the interior. The age of the chassis is definitely getting long in the tooth. So overall, my pick would definitely just be the Ford Mustang. I think it's the best balance. It's still kicking. It's still getting love. The 5.0 is pretty indestructible. Not that the 6.2 wouldn't be either, or the 5.7 or 6.2, just the 6.2 in the Dodge Challenger. And I just don't really like the styling, let alone just the compromised visibility of this Camaro. I think it would get old very quickly living with it, even though 500 miles later, I have gotten used to the visibility and the characteristic. I just feel like the Mustang's a little bit more user-friendly. It's a little greasy out today, so I'm going to try to take it easy getting onto the highway. But other videos that I'll be posting have a lot more fun going on for the Camaro. throw into sport mode. Sitting on the highway, cruising, using this digital gauge cluster gives you a lot of relevant driver information, fuel economy, tire pressure, oil temperature, all that good stuff, coolant, transmission, PSI, lots of rain noise, so it's hard to judge. Oh my gosh, this truck. Sitting at 6th gear on the highway, 70 miles per hour, 75 miles per hour. But very comfortable. I've driven 100+ mile stretches in this car and it's very doable. No problems there. It's comfortable. The noise isn't too bad. Sound system and all of that can be upgraded. Interior, leather, ventilated, heated seats, all available in upper trims to make this really a luxury daily cruiser with a lot of performance chops. The only con against it is just it's not really, I was very excited to drive this Camaro, but it's just not really fitting for my lifestyle. I need a little bit more space in the back, and I really need a door. I don't think I'd want to be putting stuff in and out of the back seat, even if it's not too much on the daily basis with an Ecole's CX-90. So with that being said, hope everyone enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on the big three. Now that kind of Ford's the only one in the game, who would you pick? You know, which one would you pick up used? And with that being said, this is Dave from POV Drives, and I'll see you on the next one.